Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi, and I'm very excited tonight because tonight's guest has done it all, especially in the world of sports. She was an outstanding athlete at Hopkins High School. She won several awards, including Most Outstanding Athlete, an award that's presented to an individual who demonstrates sportsmanship, leadership, and great character. She's got this great thing going on. It's a great new thing that they call it. It's called We Do It For, and she's going to tell us all about it. It's my honor to introduce to you Miss Alee Ramos. And Alee, thank you for coming on today. It's a real honor.
Thanks so much for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
No problem. So, Alee, first thing I wanted to ask you is, as a young kid, say like 6 or 7 years old, I know you played a ton of sports. What type of sports did you do as a young kid?
I actually started playing soccer when I was 2,
Oh, wow.
and then played t-ball, which then eventually led to softball. When I was in second grade, my parents gave me a lacrosse stick for Christmas. And so that kind of started a love for lacrosse. Ended up playing for a youth team called Eli.
Yep.
It was based out of Yale. And then eventually, continued playing in high school at Hopkins and went on to play at St. Michael's College
Right.
in freshman year before transferring.
Right. And Alee, the thing of it is that, I always say to myself, somebody at 2 years old playing some type of sport, I know some people start karate at that age. They start, you know, um, t-ball, and it's very unique because at 2 years old, you're really still learning to like walk, and you're getting to that stage where you're getting older, but you're still very much an infant. So it is interesting that you were able to start it at that age, but I know like you probably don't have much of a memory of it, correct?
I just pictures, you have your team picture with the ball under your arm, but my parents had us start things very young, and they were very active themselves. So I used to roller skate to school when I was very young. I played basketball as well. We got into skiing and snowboarding, tennis. So it was really just a little bit of everything.
Right. And the thing of it is, too, Alee, I think it's important. I always say this, you tell me if you agree or not, but it's always, I think, essential for kids to try other sports because a lot of times I think they focus on one sport, especially I'll use baseball as an example. You see so many of these kids when they get to be like 16 or 17 years old, their arms are bothering them. Some of them have to get Tommy John surgery. And I think a lot of it has to do with just focusing on the one sport year round. I really believe that whatever the season is, if you could play that sport, it's better to do that because if you're, devoted to one sport the entire year, sometimes that could be a little too much.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think that there are definitely pros and cons. If you're pitching in baseball, then yes, you're going to feel that wear and tear. If you're doing that, I actually have a godson who he's so loyal to baseball, and it seems like there's no off season. So the way
Yes.
that must wear on his body, is significant, as you're saying. When I was in high school, I played soccer, basketball, and then lacrosse in the spring. And for my junior and senior year, I actually took an independent and did weightlifting in the winter season instead of playing basketball just to train for lacrosse. So I understand what you're saying, and I think that the benefit sometimes of playing more than one sport is that you're able to have those transferable skills as well onto the other court or field, like basketball, for instance. The footwork definitely helped with playing defense in lacrosse. So there were definitely, some benefits I felt to playing more than one sport.
Right. And Alee, you mentioned lacrosse, and for the longest time in the spring, baseball, softball, they were the main sports. Kids did do soccer in the spring, and of course, there's running. But lacrosse has really come onto the scene over the last, I'd say, 10 to 12 years because more and more kids are playing lacrosse now, boys and girls, and it's really become popular. Would you say like a love for lacrosse started at a very young age for you?
Definitely. Definitely since getting that first lacrosse stick for Christmas. So like second grade, started playing in third grade. Have such a love and appreciation for the sport. And when I was a senior in high school, and we took, we had the ability to take an independent class, and to use that time however we wanted. I spent my time building a wooden lacrosse stick with a world-renowned stick maker named Alfie Jocks, part
Yeah.
of the Onondaga Nation. And it was just so special to me. I still have it to this day. But, the deep, rich history of the sport, definitely. And it's, they call it the fastest game on 2 feet. It's definitely growing. I love to see sports expand into new territories, that some people might not have had access to the sport, because the reality is that sports that have so much equipment, whether it's baseball, hockey, lacrosse, it's expensive to start. And so you haven't traditionally seen lacrosse in, like, inner city schools, or so I just appreciate the growth of the sport and just the diversity aspect of it. It's so cool to see lacrosse grow to different parts of the world.
And what's really interesting about both soccer and lacrosse. Now, somebody who runs track, they really have to love to run. You can't do cross country or track without loving to run. But lacrosse and soccer, you probably do the same amount of running because you're running up and down the field. But for kids like you probably never even really noticed it as much because it's like a game that you love playing it, and you don't even realize sometimes all the conditioning you're doing throughout the season because you're just so into that sport.
You're 100% correct. And I think just the adrenaline adds to that fun. But you're running back and forth, all different directions, you're changing. So agility is definitely a big part of lacrosse and soccer, and basketball, really. Any sport where you're running up and down and you're not necessarily just running around the track, as you say. I found it to be so much fun. And by the end of the game, you're like, wow, I just did all of this running. You can eat whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's like you just got like an insane workout. So I really miss having intense practices and games, because after you stop playing organized sports, often you have to make that much more of an effort to stay in shape or to weight train. So it was just so much fun to, play those games and be a part of a team.
Right. Now, lacrosse and soccer, lacrosse doesn't necessarily interfere during the fall, but soccer goes on in the fall. There's indoor in the winter.
Right.
There's outdoor in the spring as well. Did you take a break from soccer in the spring, or would you do lacrosse and soccer as a young kid at the same time?
So as a kid, you know, I definitely played lacrosse. Like once I picked up that lacrosse stick, lacrosse kind of took over. There was a time when I was playing lacrosse and softball the same season, and then eventually had to choose one. And just running around the bases wasn't enough for me. I had a lot of energy, so I eventually chose lacrosse. So as a kid, I could see that there was some overlap between some sports, but once you get into high school, the seasons are kind of set for you. So I had the option of playing lacrosse or tennis in the spring. It was soccer or field hockey in the fall. And then track was definitely a season where you had the indoor and outdoor track as well. But as I got older, I was also on club teams. So I had the privilege of, playing lacrosse on an outside of school team as well. And, played indoor soccer, but really, really tried to focus on lacrosse long term.
Right. Now, soccer, there's a lot of travel leagues in soccer as well. I'm not sure if lacrosse has a lot of travel, but were you on a lot of travel teams as a young kid with soccer?
I was definitely on a travel team, and then I played indoor as well. it was a travel team that, you could really grow with the team. You didn't have to change teams like after a certain age bracket. So that was nice. And yeah, just so many games, so much tailgating and driving in the car. And so I really have such gratitude to my parents for being able to take me to all of my sports games.
Now, I would think, Allie, because you're a young kid, you want to play every weekend. That's part of the weekend as a young kid. But I mean, it is a commitment, and you're giving up your weekends a lot to play in these travel leagues. You're giving your weekends up a lot to do soccer, to do lacrosse, and you also did other sports as well before high school. So, I mean, were there ever times where you were like, I don't feel like going today. I just want to like sleep in, or were you so motivated to play every weekend you never thought about that?
No, there was never a time where I didn't want to play. Like even if I was, a little bit tired, just looking forward to seeing my coaches and my teammates. And I'm just such a sports freak, so the opportunity to compete really drives me. I'm very competitive, um, and you don't have to be 100% from the start to the end of the game. Like that would be ideal if that was your intensity level. But even throughout the game, you can have like a little bit of breaks. We have subs coming in, subs going out. So you have like a water break, and it's you're definitely able to conserve some of your energy. So I just felt like sports were the best thing in the world, and I still I still believe that. Being a part of a team is just so special.
One of the things that seems to be a tradition now on Memorial Day is the lacrosse national championship game, and I think last year it was Notre Dame and Duke, if I'm not mistaken. Do you get into the college lacrosse games and the tournament and stuff? Because it seems like it's a fun tournament, and it really seems like it's got a lot of interest.
Definitely. And, over the last few years, I've definitely followed the PLL. And I think that it's just so cool that now lacrosse is like a professional sport. When I was playing, it seemed like, that there was a little bit of a ceiling there, because if you wanted to go pro, we have the WNBA, but there wasn't necessarily a professional option for lacrosse at the time. And so I think that it's been fun to follow that league as well. I went to the first official PLL game back in Boston, and I just love to see the sport growing. But to answer your question, yes, I think that the college tournaments are very fun to watch.
Right. So, Allie, let me ask you this. We're going to get to high school in a second. But what is one moment that stands out to you when you were a young kid, whether it was soccer, lacrosse, basketball, tennis, whatever it might be? Is there one moment as a young kid that you have a fond memory about that you like to share at all?
Sure. So when I used to play youth Eli lacrosse, this is just the first thing that comes to mind, is that we didn't play. This was prior to having like the eye gear, the goggles, protective eye gear, or some of like, women don't wear full on equipment like men do, like the pads and everything, unless you're a goalie. But I have a fond memory just running on one of Yale's fields with a baseball cap, in my game. And so I loved growing up, I loved wearing baseball caps, and still love hats to this day. But I just have that visual in my mind as, something that was very funny to do during a game, and I would say that another memory that kind of stands out is scoring like at the buzzer. Um, just very thrilling game winner at the buzzer, and just like, receiving a pass and shooting like the next second. But yeah, so many fond memories, just being with my teammates, being on the bus, even not even on the field. um, so a lot of good memories for sure.
And one thing about scoring at the buzzer, one of the things all of us when we were kids, and it still applies today, is we know our parents are out there watching, and it's very important because like you're playing for the team, you're playing for people watching, but you're also playing for yourself. But you do play for your parents because you want to be able to, when the game is over, them to see how proud they are of you. So I'm sure when you had that moment at the buzzer like that, it had to be so gratifying for you to see your parents after that game.
Oh, definitely. And, even parents of my teammates who attended all of the games, they were just as supportive. I think that I had, at that particular game, my grandparents were still living and they had the chance to come to my game. So that was very special. Um, but yeah, parents are awesome, right? As you get older, you realize like, wow, like I'm so lucky. Parents are really the best, and they um, invest so much in you. So I was very lucky to be able to participate in as many activities and sports as I did, and then really find, leadership skills and all of the other skills that are transferable to life through sports.
Right. And you mentioned that you played several sports, but you eventually focused on just soccer and lacrosse. Did that decision come in high school, or was it a little before high school?
It definitely came in high school.
Yeah.
As you grow to become a leader on the team, you want to just invest more time and energy into performing in that role on the team. And so there's obviously limited number of hours in the day. So at some point, you just have to make decisive and you have to make decisions and be decisive in terms of what do I want to focus my energy on,
Yeah. And Hopkins High School, it's a very traditional high school. It's been around for, many, many years. What led to your decision to attend Hopkins? Was that something that you were shooting for at seventh or eighth grade, or, did it kind of happen towards the end of eighth grade?
So it was definitely something that I shot for in like fifth or sixth grade. So I actually attended Hopkins starting in seventh grade because I went to junior school there as
Oh,
well.
okay. Yep.
I really wanted to follow my brother. My brother went to Hopkins starting in seventh grade, and I wanted to follow him. I had learned all of the great things about Hopkins, that it was such a strong institution academically, and then just all of the things that the community had to offer. It's a beautiful campus. I don't know if you've ever been, but just a thriving community, very vibrant. And so definitely one of the best gifts my parents have ever given me.
Right. So talk to me about freshman year. I'm sure academically you excelled, but how was soccer and lacrosse freshman year? Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So soccer and lacrosse freshman year was very fun. Like at Hopkins, you had coaches who were also teachers. So I had the ability to play for, one of my science teachers for a full year. It was so much fun. They were also one of the chaperones on our school ski trip.
Oh, okay.
We went to Stowe in both seventh and eighth grade. So yeah, I would say that soccer and lacrosse freshman year, I recall going to a Florida trip with my lacrosse team. I believe that was in seventh or eighth grade, before ninth grade. But I just had so much fun playing with, and at that time, right, like in seventh and eighth grade, you're still getting to know your classmates. So in seventh grade especially, you are meeting new friends, and being on a sports team is just such a fun way to, meet new friends and get to know people's personalities, like on and off the field. Sometimes you have like these really quiet friends that just turn it on and become like fierce competitors during the sport. So yeah, I have fond memories of. That's a good question. I haven't really thought back to those years recently, but 7th and 8th grade were definitely good years.
Yeah. And talk about some of the coaches you had in high school that, you know, really helped you along the way, especially, of course, soccer and lacrosse. You mentioned your science teacher, but just talk about some of those coaches and how they impacted you.
Yeah, definitely. So in just a few coaches, I've had so many coaches, but a few coaches that stand out are my junior school basketball coach. His name was Coach Cole. Was very strict, but also very fun, and just wanted to push us during practice to get the most out of us. I loved him. I had a youth coach, Loretta DiPietro, that ended up being a high school coach later in life. She was a wonderful mentor of mine, definitely made a strong influence in my life. Another coach, Eric Miller, was a lacrosse coach, and just had a really special relationship with him. He actually was my advisor for my independent where I built the wooden lacrosse stick. And so he was great, always supportive. It's so important to be coachable. I think that that's something that I really strive to be. Is you might come in with a certain skill level, thinking that you're really good, or thinking that you've learned some things in the past, but you have to be a blank slate and remain teachable so that you never plateau. I'm just thinking, who else? I had a great soccer coach in high school. His name was Casanova. And I also had the privilege of having him as a history teacher. And so just, Hopkins is a very special community. I think it's really fun that you get to interact with professors in the classroom and on the sports field, and that they get to know you in a different light. I would say you had mentioned that I thrived in high school, and I definitely did in my classes, but I found my time on the sports field to be almost effortless. Like it was something where I felt like I was a natural, whereas like some of the classwork might have been a little bit more challenging, but it definitely feels good when you're able to show some of those professors just a different side of you where you're really, really excelling, even if their class is a little bit difficult.
Yeah. And let me ask you, Alee, because one of the things that is very challenging sometimes when a young kid is an excellent athlete in high school, even, middle school, but more so high school, is keeping them humble, keeping them honest and stuff like that. And it seems like to me, so many different high school kids I talk to who I've had on the show, they, as happy as they are to accomplish what they do, they think about the team aspect first. And that's very important. And how was it ever difficult for you where, you knew how good you were, like to make sure that, I don't want to say get an ego, but I think any person in life is going to have a little ego sometimes because they're proud of what they do. But how were you able to balance it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was definitely, and this is something that you have to be very intentional about, but I was definitely somebody that showed up early for practice and was one of the last ones to leave. Like I just had such a joy for, showing up and a love for the game that I didn't mind carrying the balls to practice. That was something that, as team leaders, as you get to be more senior on the team, you can easily have some of the younger kids carry the balls or carry the equipment to practice. But my mentality is like, you want to be a leader on the team, like you can carry the balls. Don't make someone else do that. That's more junior. So I definitely took leadership really serious. And I think that some of that was imparted on me from my parents. So I took that seriously, but then also just being a kind teammate. If you don't trust your teammates, if you don't invest time in your teammates, trying to help them grow their game, then once you get out on the field, they're not going to have the confidence level that's necessary to win games. And so if I'm passing you the ball, I want you to feel confident and empowered that not only am I trusting you, but that you have that, I know that you have that skill level to catch that ball. And so I guess even though I had the ability to play outside of school, like a lot of people learn to play lacrosse for the first time in high school, I felt like I'm not above anyone here. And that if we want to, it's a team sport. Like there's no way that you're going to win games unless you have those relationships with your teammates.
And that's an excellent point, Allie. And you just brought up a great point about your teammates won't have the confidence or trust in you on the field if they see how you're carrying on or not being a leader. And I think that that is a great thing that you would carry the balls to the field, even though you weren't an underclassman anymore, because what it shows is that it doesn't matter if you're a freshman or a senior, you're part of this team and you're just as important as somebody who is a senior.
Right. Right, exactly. And I think that just leading by example too, and not complaining, in game settings, you'll have critical moments where it might be true that in that split second you trust yourself to take a shot more than passing the ball, because now an extra pass leaves room for error. That pass might be dropped or it might be a bad pass, so if when it comes down to like the clock and just making things happen in a few seconds, like I definitely recall certain moments where I had to place that trust in myself. But at the same time, you can't be a ball hog. You have to play as a team, work as a team, so that everybody learns how to play in those critical moments, right? Like you can't just do it in practice, because you need to learn how to play under pressure. And so I think that in many ways, like games are like the best practice for future games. You want to have high intensity levels in practices and be able to simulate things like in real time and during scrimmages, but nothing will replace experience in a game when you're facing an opponent.
Yeah. And Allie, I think one of the most rewarding things is when you are being recognized and rewarded with all the hard work that you put in. Because guess what? School, sports, you could be as talented and as intelligent as you want, but you still have to work for that stuff. Nothing comes easy. I think sometimes people think things do come easy for some people, but it's always a struggle for everyone to, be the very best they could be. And yet, when you get recognized as the outstanding athlete for leadership, sportsmanship, and character in a school with such tradition as Hopkins, that had to just be probably your biggest highlight in high school, because I mean, it's telling you that what I did meant something. It matters what I did on the field and in the classroom.
100%. I mean, it's so nice to have that validation and to be seen when you are striving to be a certain type of person, and leader on your sports teams. But I have to tell you, Mike, like never once did I think about winning an award. When it came time to the award ceremony and you hear the coaches up at the podium describing, they're making a speech and describing who they're about to present the award to, that's the first time that you really think like about who are they describing on the team, and like you have a sense of, oh, it could be this person, or but I never really thought up until the award ceremony, and even like while they're making those talks, that it could be me, because I didn't really do any of those things to win an award. I just have such a love for sports that I feel I would have done those things anyway. And so it is nice to be recognized just for, being your authentic self on the field, and just for your contribution when you're giving 110% every day. And I definitely found like it was easy for me to give my everything in sports because it was an outlet for me. It was an outlet for, classwork, some of the other things that you have going on in life, some of the other stressors. So that was like my happy place, and definitely where I felt like I could excel.
Right. So tell me, Ali, is there, I mentioned middle school before and when you were a young kid, but is there one moment in high school that stands out for you in both soccer and lacrosse?
It's a good question. So, yeah, I mean, I remember playing. This is just, again, the first thing that comes to mind. When I was playing in a soccer game, a varsity soccer game at Hopkins against, I believe it was Westminster, I got like body checked so bad that I think I had a slight fracture in like one of my ribs.
Oh, man.
Um, but when I look back on it now, like I just think about like falling down and getting up. Like that's something that level of resilience has had to transfer throughout other areas of my life. Just every time I fall, getting back up. And I was so competitive and so fierce, but I was definitely not the biggest one on the field. And so I think that's why that moment stands out to me. It's just because I was often competing against girls that were stronger and bigger than I was. I was very fast. But I was just, a scrappy kid, just out there working hard. And if you were to knock me down, like it was going to be like really hard for you to keep me down.
Yeah. And that's really a good attitude though, Ali, because you hear the different speeches. I know there's the big Rocky speech about getting knocked down and getting back up and, all that stuff. But it really does apply because it's going to carry you over to everyday life. And one of the things that you have done recently, and it's really just a remarkable thing, is you are giving back to your community. You're giving back to sports, to school and stuff like that. And you've started this great thing. It's called We Do It For. And just talk to us a little bit about that because I think the mission statement is to include wellness, education, diversity, and what's the other? I'm missing the other one, but I know there's like four basic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you about it. So at We Do It For, we empower all athletes to make a difference by getting actively involved in supporting causes related to those four pillars. So education, wellness, diversity, and sustainability.
Right.
And, we allow athletes. Now, Nike defines athlete as anyone with a body. So I'm not just talking about professional athletes here, but we're building a really cool platform where athletes can connect with corporate sponsors to generate a donation amount. And then they'll be able to turn that donation to any 501c3 that's hosted on our site. So they'll be able to choose a cause that resonates with their values. And it's really the gamification of philanthropy to me. Our slogan is get in the game of giving. And it's all about making giving fun and accessible and transparent. So traditionally, if you want to be a philanthropist or participate in philanthropy, you're the one that's donating the money. The money's coming out of your pocket, right? So I've wanted to find a way where if you have these people that just have the drive and interest in making an impact, that they can do so without having to come out of their pockets. So we'll work with companies and we'll work with their DEI programs and corporate responsibility to basically encourage them to participate with We Do It For by making these donations or pledges to one of our four pillars. And then the athletes are just essentially unlocking those donations and getting the money to where it needs to go. So it's a way to incentivize people to get involved, to get out and move. Again, because I have such a joy and love for movement. So I think that it's going to be great to see this thing grow. We're really just warming up. and getting started. But last year we partnered with the NYPD
Okay.
for a toy drive during the holiday season, and then we have a fundraiser going on right now where we're sponsoring the pro debut fight of two prodigy boxers. They're actually identical twins, Danny and Stephen Grandy. They're from Philly, but they're based out of Houston right now. And we're helping to sponsor their pro debut fight, which will be in Columbia. So I'm super excited about this collaboration. We're going to be helping them by, coming up with the travel costs. Our fundraising goal is $25,000, but I think that if we can get to a solid 5 or 10,000, that will cover the costs of the first fight. But yeah, I don't know. We do it for it holds such a special place in my heart. So I appreciate you, giving me this platform today to come on here and share my story with you.
No problem. And really what it's also doing is it's transferring sports into business. So you're kind of like having them go hand in hand, but it's really about, implementing sports, and it's going to turn into business, which is really cool.
100%.
Right. So let me ask you, how, I don't want to use rewarding, but I would say how, fun is it to do this type of thing? Because I'm sure every day, just watching the different things that you and your team are trying to accomplish and going out there and getting sponsors and things like that, it's got to just be like work can be fun if you make it fun. And this seems like this type of work is just so much fun all the time.
Oh yeah. Like what do they say? If you do something that you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life.
Yeah.
So that to me is we do it for. I feel that it's the way that I'm going to make an impact. Definitely a calling, or, where you feel a sense of purpose. I love to help others. Actually, my name, Alexandra, means helper. And so to me, this was just a way to find, to find a way where it's an advantage to be me. And I remember when I sat down to really think about the company that I wanted to start, whether or not it would be a for-profit business or a nonprofit business, I was putting things on paper and thinking about like, okay, in what world would it be an advantage to be me? And I think that's, that might sound like a weird way to go about it, but it makes you really pour out all of your skills and your strengths on paper, so that then you can say, okay, wow, how do I bring this all or weave this all together to do something where I can lead the business? Starting with what you have, like you're continuously growing, but you have to start where you are with what you have, and then sometimes it's slow, but then you build up to something great. So going back to that award, or the awards that I won at Hopkins, I felt like that was always a great checkpoint for me, in terms of my level of leadership and just performing on that stage. I was all area, all New Haven Register. I was also all state, and so I felt like that those awards or that recognition at the end of high school definitely carried me in my confidence level throughout other areas in my life, where I felt like, okay, if I could do this, then I if I can do this or perform on this level, there's no reason why I can't transfer some of these skills to business.
Right. And the thing of it is too, I think a great old saying is don't dream it, be it. And you've really been it with everything you do. And what you're doing right now is awesome. And I really love the title for this, We Do It For, because then you could go to the site and it tells you what you do it for. So it starts off basically by saying, this is why we do what we do. And I just think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. And what it shows me is, Alee, is that you appreciate what sports did for you. You appreciate the people in your life, what they've done for you. And your thanks to them is by doing things like this, because you're basically saying thank you for helping me become who I am today. And a lot of that credit goes to you. But as you know, nobody ever does it alone. A lot of times
Right.
you become who you are by the friends, the family, the coaches, the teachers. They all play an instrumental part. Even if you had a teacher in second grade that you haven't seen in years, he or she still plays an important part in your life.
Oh, you're right. It definitely takes a village. And so I think just leading with an attitude of gratitude and finding ways to give back, that's what it's all about. You're right that nobody does anything solely by themselves. So you really have to be able to show appreciation for the people that invested in you. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is investing in other young, talented athletes who are dedicated to working at their craft each and every day, especially like Danny and Stephen Grandy. Their level of commitment, focus, drive, discipline is just something to marvel at. And I credit them, but also their dad as well, just for instilling those values and work ethic in them. And so these two athletes are going to be, they're already doing great things, but they're going to be nothing shy of accomplishing greatness in the sport of boxing and just become, like, if they're not already, just household names. Because I think that when you put in the work every day, and you're just focused on the process, right? You're not thinking about the outcome. That's how you're going to get the results, because you're enjoying the process, enjoying the journey. So definitely passionate about, helping others, showing appreciation for those who invested in me, and then trying to give back to other young athletes who are, just looking to take their game to the next level. A lot of athletes don't have the resources to take their game to the next level without plateauing. And so any way that we do it for can, help to create more opportunities in sport. We're here to do that.
Yeah, and it's just really a great thing that you you and your team are doing. Now you're so busy that I don't think at this moment you can do this, but down the road is coaching something that you may want to get into, because I think as outstanding of an athlete as you were, I think you'd be a tremendous coach as well.
Oh, I appreciate that, Mike. So I actually was a lacrosse coach. Uh,
Oh,
I coached um, not only youth lacrosse, but I coached the high school team at St. Joseph's High School in Trumbull, Connecticut.
oh,
It was another private school, and I had the privilege of coaching the girls' high school varsity team, and we made it to states for the first time in 10 plus years. So that was definitely a memorable experience for me, a rewarding experience for me, because you're not just coaching lacrosse, but you're like acting as a coach in life, right? You're coaching high school girls, which we all know high school girls have a lot more going on than athletics, and so it was just a way for me to really connect with them, give them a space to practice confidence, and just, so much fun to see those friendships grow, because you may not necessarily be in the same friend group, or, I hate to use the word clique, but you may not necessarily be best friends with somebody in the classroom or in your everyday school life, but then you come out onto the sports field and we're all teammates. So it's like, those are your sisters, those are your teammates. And so I love to see those types of friendships grow. Coaching is so much fun.
yeah, and I'm sure like you just get so much out of it. I mean, like I said, that's the reward, is when you see these great kids do wonderful things, not only in sports but in life. But before we go, what would be your message to, you know, any kid who right now is in high school and is really inspiring to, you know, really excel at sports? What would you say to them?
I would just say stay committed to your dreams. It is so true that, you know, fear limits us, or that we place limitations on ourselves. I would say that the sky's not even the limit, right? Like, dream as big as you can and stay committed to those dreams, because when you get older, you'll see that other adults around you or other individuals around you maybe didn't stay fiercely committed to their dreams, and now they're um, either settling or getting into different modes of life. And I always had to work so hard to just keeping that ambition, um staying fiercely committed to like what I believed in, was the life for me. And so now I'm able to manifest things that are beyond what I could have dreamt, because yeah, I just felt like dreaming can be a skill, right? Like, but don't just dream, be about it. Try to create the infrastructure to those dreams to see them take flight. And just, lead with confidence whenever you can, believe in yourself, um, all of that jazz. For
Well,
sure.
well, Allie, I really appreciate you giving me a few minutes today. I think what this cause that you're doing is one of the, you know, best things for anyone, because I mean, it's really, like you said, giving them a way to advance in what they want to do, especially with sports. And you are giving them, you know, that opportunity to do that, you and your team. So I think what you're doing is wonderful. I really do applaud you for it. And I look forward to seeing how this progresses. And thank you so much for giving me a few minutes today.
Oh, thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure to be on your show, and I'm just so grateful for you having me. For anybody out there listening, please go to www.wedoit4.org on Instagram, or wedoit4.org. We have our fundraiser going on, and yeah, if I would love to hear from you, anybody who wants to connect or collaborate. But I really appreciate being on today, Mike.
Well, no problem. And thank you again. And folks, there you have it. This remarkable human being has done so many things that it really started at the young age of 2. You heard her tell you about how she started playing soccer for the first time. And although she was a phenomenal athlete, all area, all New Haven register, all conference, anything you want to name, she did it, all the awards she's won. But what really stands out about Alee Ramos is her character. And it's no surprise that the award she won had character in it, because when you listen to her talk and you see the motivation and assertiveness that she has, it's all about her being able to help others and give them an opportunity and give back to them and do anything she can to help them. There's an old saying that, you know, dreams do come true. Tough times don't last, but good people do. You could dust off that saying for Alee Ramos. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.